million being put with them to be able to provide liquidity or cross-margin assets over there at Ripple Prime. I believe that was another 200 million that was placed with them today. You got the Jack McDonald. He was on a podcast here recently with Rachel Wolfson. If you guys haven't checked that out, I would encourage you to go do so. Rachel puts out on awesome content. Shout out to her. She was nice enough to invite me to a polo event in Miami while I was still there, but unfortunately wasn't able to attend. She's at all the conferences. I actually ran into Eleanor Terrett the other day too. She was up there or out there in Bermuda. Didn't get to talk. She said hi as she passed by, so before she moderated that panel. But a shout out to both of them. What you doing?
It's hot.
Okay.
Also, that's the tea that we blend. It's great. And you have 2 missed super chats, and unfortunately, it's in with my stuff. So if you want to know, so all right.
My wife making sure we're staying on track here.
Messing stuff up.
keeping up with the super chats. We'll make sure that we get both of those. Shout out to the gentleman that helped us out with the tea.
Mr. Dapper.
Mr. Dapper on the tea. Here we go. So a couple super chats. Thank you, babe. All right. So what else is going out there in the market? Again, these people providing liquidity over there for Ripple Prime's balance sheet. I think that's good for everybody. So for those that don't understand what that business does, cross-margining assets is a big deal. Dapper Dan. Really, Ripple Prime is the first broker, and you could probably consider FalconX in the same demographic of prime brokers that are willing to margin digital assets and give. So what does that mean? Basically, you're able to post that as collateral with them, and then they use that collateral and margin it, and you can put that into other things. So whether that's treasuries or bonds, or if you want to have it in stocks, you can park it wherever you want. This person said, "What's my shirt?" This was a gift. I play a little golf, and so a gentleman sent me some shirts. I figured I'd wear it on it here for him. Shout out to him. Thank you. You know who you are. Appreciate the swag. So back to the margin. For a lot of people that are holding digital assets, whether that's Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, USDC, XRP, all of that, you'd be able to, park on the balance sheet there with Ripple Prime. And if you're an institution, so let me caveat that they do not face retail. They might face off with somebody else that could aggregate that and reflect it with them and a single counterparty that was an institution. But they will not, maybe 3-4 years now, from now, like David Schwartz was talking about at XRP Vegas, they might make their way downstream to retail. But as it sits today, it's just going to be on the institutional side. Evernorth, I would expect, because of their ties there, probably we'll be using the XRP on their balance sheet in some capacity with Ripple Prime. We'll have to see, what that looks like or if that's even the case. But, just speculating that might be the case based on, their positioning in the market and, their close ties with Ripple. But that's the benefit there. You're able to post that as collateral, margin it, be able to get access to other investments to be able to generate cash flow off of that position. This person says XRP going to $1 million. I would love to see it. I do think eventually we'll get there, but not here in 2026. That'd be a wild ride from $1.40 to $1 million. 3-4 digits here this year. I could see that. I actually think that personally. But again, that requires macro events. And on the macro side, still watching oil hang out around 17,000 yen per barrel. Still watching the JPY 10-year continue to rise. Bond yields are rising across the board. People selling off bonds because they are scared that they are going to have some volatility or not be, paying out. Japan has dumped a ton of treasuries in the last couple months here to be able to push the yen up against the dollar or strengthen their currency. But I think, they've intervened in the currency market 5 times now. Like I said, Monday, if they do one more time, they might have one more time before the IMF will step in. And then I do think we're going to see them raise interest rates. We have Warsh signed in or sworn in. I think last Friday was his first day. I watched a interview with him where he talked about reducing the Fed's balance sheet and lowering interest rates, which they would have to do. You know, I talked about the two levers on Monday. If you didn't see that, I would go check it out. For me, you know, watching what they're doing with monetary policy, if you knew a deflationary collapse was coming, you would front run it. You would print a ton of money, which is exactly what they've done. They've dumped, you know, tons of money into the economy. M2 money supply is at an all-time high. Debt is at an all-time high. But if you knew that the economic growth and the deflation that was going to happen because the convergence of AI and blockchain was coming, you would probably do the same thing. So excited for this year in 2026 for the application of AI at scale, Anthropic, and many other. Here's a fun statistic. I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but I thought it was interesting. Sam Bankman-Fried, you know, the infamous FTX deal, his private equity that he dumped when all that was going on would be worth $151 billion today. He owned like 10% of Anthropic back then. So, you know, I'm not saying that if they had left him alone, everything would have been okay. But, you know, there's enough value there that he could have definitely made everybody whole multiple times over at this point. So, and FTX was more collateralized than the banks are. The banks are fractional reserve lending. You know, they hold 10 to 1. You know, they're able to loan 10 to 1. So basically they have a tenth of the reserves that they have out. And FTX actually, I think it had like 30 or 40% of what they had when they went under. So, you know, hopefully we don't see another SVB or Silvergate or any of the things that happen with the regional banks, because the FDIC ain't got it. They would not be able to cover at this point. So, you know, I'm hoping that we don't see a credit crisis and collapse, but with the reverse carry trade right here on the horizon, I think that that's a possibility. Again, not to scare anybody or say, you know, you shouldn't keep your money in a bank. I think banks are stable. I think that they'll be, you know, bailed out, or if there is a problem, there won't be an issue. Maybe they're holding enough XRP on their balance sheet to be okay when all this plays out. That's just my speculation. We'll see what holds true over the long term. So we got a lot of people on the live tonight. Again, appreciate you taking time out of your Wednesday to come hang out with me and ask great questions. We'll go ahead and dive into those. I'll catch up on the super chats that I missed from Monday, and then we'll dive into the super chats that we have tonight over here on YouTube, X, Facebook, and on TikTok. Again, appreciate y'all taking the time out. So the first one here says, Jake the Dane to Jake the Man. This is G-Thord. They say, after price appreciation, can I use XRP at DWP for your service? I'd have to sell on an exchange anyways. Thank you. God bless. Yeah, you know, post price appreciation, we probably will raise minimums just a little bit. But if XRP is $1,000, you need 5,000 XRP to meet a $5 million minimum. That's, you know, today we sit at 50,000 XRP as our minimum. That's literally an order of magnitude less in the total amount of XRP that you would need in order to be able to work with Digital Ascension Group. What?
Specifically, they wanted to know if they could use XRP to pay for an LLC or trust.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not what he asked.
That's the reason why I wrote that down below. He sent a second super chat and paid more. That's why he wanted to, you did read that Monday, but he wanted to follow up. And by the way, Jake the Dane is his Great Dane.
Oh, that's cool.
That's the fun.
Big dog. So will we take XRP for payment post price appreciation? As it sits today, we can do that. It's kind of a workaround if people want to pay that way. I'd prefer you keep your XRP personally, and then, you know, be able to generate cash flow. If you had to sell some, you know, we could figure that out, how we could finance it. Again, I'd prefer that people don't have to sell their XRP and they're able to keep as much as they can over the long term. Because, you know, the cost of benefit there, right? Like if you're selling your XRP at $100 or $1,000 and it goes to 10,000 or 100,000 or $1 million over the long term, I mean, that's a lot of upside that you missed out on to just pay us for services. So, ideally it's cash. Ideally, you're able to generate returns on the XRP that cover the cost of other services that we provide. Or, if you did want to borrow against it, again, no tax implications for that. That would probably still be cheaper than, whatever taxes you would owe for the long-term capital gains, unless Trump comes out and says, hey, no cap gains on crypto. Hopefully, I would love that just as much as everybody else would. But all that being said, we'll work on ways to be able to finance that type of stuff and make sure that, because again, at the end of the day, we're a fiduciary. We want to make sure that our clients are